Hello everyone and welcome back to NeoBurgh. Last time we have built up our riverside railway and it is starting to take on passengers and get them from A to B. That's all well and good and it's working. That's progress as far as I'm concerned. What we need to do next is try and ascertain what would be best to actually get people from A to B. So obviously we've built in our train line. So that's this train line here. If we just change it to red, we can see it a little bit easier. So it goes through from Ilkley, Swindon, up to Littlehampton South, over to Upper Shildon, and then through to Tring. So that is the stops so far. So with this particular episode, I think what we're going to do is connect up probably Shildon to Dover in order to prepare a connection between Shildon and Winsford, so that when we're ready, we can do a line straight through. So with that in mind, we first need to, let's just double check. This is just cargo, isn't it? We first need to move things on the main station for Dover. So let's remove these buildings on the left, on the this side, and we're going to put in. We can't actually put in the stops there as we want to. So we're probably going to have to move this and then put it back in. So if we go ahead and do that, we can then edit this, go into there, put in our track, and then we have our line through. We just need to put on the roof for this, and we can also put in the underpass so that people can get from one side to the other. So from here, we need to basically, well, first off, we need to put our road back in. So fingers crossed, this will go back in without an issue, he says. Right, so it looks like it's bridge pillar is causing issues and it's blocking here. That's fine, we can probably work with that. So if we move out this section for the time being, we might well have to go around to get this in properly. What we can do then is put this back in, raise it up slightly in the middle, ever so slightly. Bridge pillar collision. Right, where is it colliding? Is it always going to collide? Okay, it's always going to collide, so we might have to take this a little bit further back. See whether we can raise this up more in general to avoid that. Doesn't look like it's going to, and I think it might be colliding just here, if anywhere. It looks like it's always going to be a bit of an issue. Okay, well, we can't really move the train station, but we can probably move the road so that it fits better into what we've got currently. So if we were to take this road and come straight out from where it is, maybe even go a little bit up, It's really whether we can get it over everything that matters. So we just raise that. Maybe going down wasn't a good idea here. Snapping to the right node is a little bit tricky when it doesn't want to. So we go out like this. That actually raises it up a little bit. Ah, there we go. That's more like it. So we can probably work our way into this quite smoothly. In fact, that works quite well. And then hopefully we can go underneath here. And I'm going to preempt an issue which is probably connecting up this section as well. So we're going to probably want to come out as a train line this direction. I'll keep it flat because we're probably not going to want to go too far down. And then we just need to do the same on the other side. Like this. So we can just take this road out. Hopefully we will be able to build straight through here without too much of an issue. And then we can probably build fairly straight up here. And then potentially we can go across here, keeping it flat, maybe even raise it a little bit in the middle. There we go. And what we can do is take that bit out now that we've got that bridge in there and connect in just like that. So what we'll do here is connect up just a basic road to there, and we'll effectively downgrade that bit so that it is not bus lanes. So normal traffic can come down here, but it has to turn left and go down this route. So we've got various roads which are using the bus lane route to ensure that only the stuff that is on this particular line uses that particular road. Either way, we've now got a connection from this particular, or at least we've got a extra set of tracks to use for a connection here. So it currently goes up to Coulsdon, and we're going to have to go down to Shildon down here. So it's a relatively straight path from here down to here, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But we have these roads which unfortunately are a bit more of an issue because they're a bit in the way at the moment, and we're probably going to have to move them so that they don't get in the way. So if we take this connection out here, we can then connect it in to this road up here like so. It's probably best to use the... Oh, this has bus lanes in it. I see. Bus lanes and tram lines. Is very abrupt of a corner, so I might well take this out a little bit further. And then if we just do this road coming out down to here, we can hopefully connect it in to this other road. That is a fair drop down though. Should be able to do a relatively good connection through if we just upgrade this section. So that then splits these pretty well. And then we just have to put these roads back in. And considering this already goes pretty straight out, might as well keep that connected into there. And then do... I mean, we could do a similar thing here, or what we could do is potentially connect it into this connection and go underneath. Considering it is using the bus lanes, other vehicles shouldn't be using it as a pass-through. So that should be relatively okay. So we just need to upgrade this road so that it has, number one, a bus lane, number two, tram lanes. And then down here, if we do the same, connecting it up with tram lines, that should work fairly well. We could potentially even reduce this down, but we've got tram lines going through. I don't necessarily think it's needed. We could even do potentially a road into over here, but we would have to remove that one first. So keeping it relatively straight. Connect that in there. Then we've got a number of different routes through, which should allow traffic to get to where it needs to go. But anyway, if we go back to the trains, so this one connects up to the right-hand lane. What happens if we literally just connect it in? Okay, so there's a little bit of an issue here, and that's because it's coming out of a tunnel. So if we go into a tunnel early down here, that may well sort the problem out. So if we keep this flat, where does it go into a tunnel? Not quite yet. So that has to go a fair ways down, but it means that it goes underneath this other stuff here. And actually, if we continue in that direction, will it go underneath here? Will it go underneath if we stay flat? Yes, it will. Okay. So if we're going from the right-hand lane into the right-hand lane. Oh, we're at Bawtry, so we need to go down a bit here. It's reporting too much slope. So we need to work on that. It's I don't really understand why it's got too much slope, considering up here is 205, down here is 32, and that's a fair distance to go. It seems to be coming out early, whereas we wanted to go underneath this lot. If we take it up to where the other tunnel is, we put a slight curve on it, considering it's going in this direction. That should work quite well. So this will be from Dover down to CrossBurgh. Hopefully now there's not going to be any issues. Let's just try and check here. It's really hard to tell whether it's crossing or whether it's going underneath, but I think it is going underneath that tunnel. And there's no other tunnels there. So we're going to follow this up. Make sure that we're going along the same route. And then that comes into Dover at this point. So we now have track between Dover and CrossBurgh, which is good. Sorry, Shildon, which is good, but that's not exactly what we want. We want to connect it up to Winsford. But on the other end, for Dover, one of Dover's biggest connections is Burglar Marsh. So if we were to connect in Burglar Marsh directly, then that would really benefit us going forward, because there would be a much faster connection avoiding Bawtry to go into Dover. And likewise for Burglar Marsh, one of their highest connections is Dover. Only 58% is going from Burglar Marsh to Dover currently, and then about 66% is going via the existing train line that we have. So they want something a bit better. So we're going to give it to them. And hopefully, if we put this connection in, they're going to use it a bit more than what they're currently doing. So if we put in our underpass, and also we can put in the roof there. What we need to do is connect this to the connection that we put out from Dover. So that's going up this way. It looks like it needs to go a little bit higher here. So if we made that a decent bridge and raise it up ever so slightly so that it avoids these roads, hopefully. Might even have to remove this one here or go around. We definitely want to be avoiding this existing train line. So I'm just raising it up ever so slightly. Considering it goes so far, it is taking a little while to get to there, but it's starting to get to where we need it. if I were to just raise it up in one massive chunk, to be fair, that's not done too bad of a job. So it clears that road. Where's it colliding? Here. Ah, okay. It goes up and over there. Right, we don't necessarily want that. So I think what we'll be doing is guiding the route a little bit more. So hopefully we can do that without affecting this train line here. We almost definitely want it to be going down because Dover is a lot higher up than Burgh Marsh is. So if we take that along, we'll do this a section at a time. We're just sort of guiding it towards that final destination down here, which is where we need things to be coming to. So I feel like it was doing quite well going up here, but the bridge pillar is a collision. But that works. That works perfectly fine. So let's get an idea for where that's heading. It's going up this way. Yeah, that could be a bit more of this direction. We want to go underneath this other bridge. We want to avoid these other train tracks. Avoid this road. And we avoid this other road by the slightest of margins. I reckon this one coming out, considering it'll be more over to the right, should be fine. So I think that's perfect where we want it. So if we take out this road where it was, come to here, this goes in exactly where we want it and avoids everything from connecting. So we have our destination for that particular railroad through. So we just need to bring this round a little bit more. We definitely want to be going down at this point, because if we check the height, down here is 73 meters. And up here, even in the tunnel, is 207, and the tunnel's only, what, like 10, 20 meters below. So while it's a better situation to be in, it's not the best. So we want to be guiding this in. Avoiding all the other tunnels that we've got already. And that should do the trick. So one last thing I want to try and do is just have one long tunnel rather than it be potentially poking out somewhere around here as it was before. And it looks like that's the case here. So that's perfect. That's exactly how we want it to be. So now we have, at least one way at the moment, a direct route. And now we've got the other way, a direct route from Dover to Burgh Marsh. So that should be a much quicker route for passengers that want to go from one city to the other. We just have to put in the... Ooh, something's not quite playing ball here. We just have to put in the... There we go. Crossing here. And then we can put in stops In fact, do we have stops on the other railroad? We don't here, which is quite shocking actually. I would have thought that I would have put some here. So we're going to put some there. And then we're going to put stops along the route with a right-hand preference for the driver. Down here, there we go, we put in stops there. I might well put a couple of stops closer to the station just to keep things moving. And then we'll need stops coming through. Now that we've removed the level crossing here, we can have them come straight through and we can remove those old stops that were crossing the road. So that should be good for that bit. So if we just keep working our way down through this area. We now have a direct route from Burgh-la-Marsh, one of our largest cities, to Dover, another of our largest cities. Let's just put a stop on that end as well. And now we're going to try and connect in Winsford, one of our larger cities, not our largest, about 6th or 7th, isn't it? 6, 7, yeah. 7th largest. So I'm thinking we'll probably keep this towards the river down here, and we'll likely have 2 train lines coming through here. So if we were to put in a connection here, it would likely be just at this point. We just need to alter where the bridge goes, and if anything, we may well be putting this back a little bit higher than it was before. So if we go into the big tunnel, or the big bridge even, and then raise that up, it's got too much slope. Too much slope. We literally just need to take it to where it will error there. So I'm hoping we can go underneath that and it should be fine. Hopefully we can go straight through. Flat, maybe? Maybe even just lowering a little bit. No, it's causing collision now. There we go. So once autosave finishes, that'll be in. So that's one side of it. Here's the other. And then this other one should go in without an issue, really. Nope, it's still struggling a little bit. So we'll lower it in the middle here. And it actually looks like it's bridged here for some reason. There must be just a slight gap. It is right at the riverbed after all. need it to go underneath here. I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue, but then we need it to come across here. So this is where it gets a little bit trickier. So too much slope there. Can we raise it? Raise it in the middle? Maybe if we just connect that in. We might need to make this a little bit either lower down or possibly even more of an angle rather than such a smooth curve, because we're going to have to go across here somehow. Somehow don't feel like it's going to work any other way. Unless we go underneath. No, it's too high up at this point. Even at its lowest point, it still goes into the water at this point, and it doesn't even tunnel over here. That's a really weird glitch there. Almost looks like it's gone into a bridge, but it hasn't quite worked. Let's try and give this everything we can to try and fit it in. No, it's just causing an issue there. It's going underneath this. I mean, I don't know whether it really should be. So what we could do is lower this one down and move the road. So I think that's probably preferable here, considering the road probably doesn't have too much going on with it. I mean, it's a good link, but it's not exactly the busiest road we've got in the game. So I don't have too many problems removing it. And then if we can possibly lower this down in the middle, that should then allow us to go through without too much of an issue. This is the same level, isn't it? So it does slow down, but it's not a massive amount. Let's put our stops back in. So that shouldn't affect that line at all. But this is the problem now. Whether we can get this in without too much of an issue. So it's going to be a bit of a problem there. You can see it's having a bit of a problem. Alright, so we're definitely going to have to go underneath this other bridge here. Yeah, it's not quite going in. So I might have to bring this out a little bit more. I should have just put the bridge in first and then made this work around it, because quite frankly this is going to be a much more valuable connection, I feel. So we don't really need to worry about the boats, because we're no longer really using boats, and actually that is pretty much a comfortable level for me for the trains there. So I think that's perfect, or as good as we're going to get it, really. And then if we go back, snapping in so it doesn't for some reason create a separate bridge or anything. So we're going to probably go down as steep but as comfortably as we can. That's I'm not very comfortable with that. So, at what point does it get low enough to go underneath these? About here. So if we just take it a little bit further out and then bring it underneath, I could probably believe that the cables would be potentially fastened to this bridge. But I don't want it to be too silly. So then if we can connect that in, bridge pillar collision issues. Let's not worry about that for now. Let's take this further back. Give it as much space as it can to work with this. So if we try this again, bridge pillar collision issues. That's probably just because the bridge pillars are there currently. So if we put this in now, I reckon if we can draw this out properly, going 2 for 2, maybe I'll do a third. There we go. That connects in fine. This connects in with bridge pillar collision issues. It's playing difficult for me. We could do one of them, or we could do one of them, but not one of these. Why is it causing issues? Maybe if we take this back and then raise this up as much as possible. No, it's still causing issues. This is going to be a tricky one. Okay. What we have here is a tricky what's it. So let's take this back. Let's take this back to the drawing board. I always anticipated that this would probably be the tricky part of getting this connection in. But that's absolutely fine, because once it's in, it'll be really worth it. Because Winsford hasn't really had a link like this before. So if we go out but keep it flat, and this is already more of a curve than what we had before, because it was going over the river at this point. So if we meet this here, can we then, with this one, pass underneath? Possibly. It's playing around with some of the oh, we actually have a bit of a bridge there, which would be quite useful to be able to then get the road underneath. So we might actually work with that. And then if we keep this flat, if we provide more of a crossing part, it may well work a bit better into our favour. So next we have to try and get this in. There's too much slope there. If we drop it down in the middle, I mean, it's enough for the game. Whether it's enough for me personally, I'm not too sure. Like, that is about the limit I would take it. But that, if we maybe push up a little bit further. So the cable is sort of going where the support is. So let's just lower it slightly. Yeah, I would believe that they would potentially fasten it to a bridge if it was real life, because the bridge is going to be more secure than the actual pole that they put in. That being said, though, the pole might move with the track if there's ever, say, any seismic issues or any wind or anything like that, whereas the cable on the other one wouldn't necessarily. But I'm not going to read into it too much. We now have a connection down to Winsford. This is pretty gargantuan because, quite frankly, we've never had a connection to Winsford. I mean, till a few episodes ago, we didn't have a connection to Tring and Shildon. But this is the section where we're going to be putting these in. And quite frankly, it makes me quite happy that we're actually putting these in now. Because it's been a fair while in the making. So we can potentially connect this road down here. Yes, that works. That's good. So that's effectively what we had before. It hasn't really removed much for the road, but we now have a connection down to Winsford, which is huge to me. So if we put in a crossing here, if it'll allow us, then we can put stops along this way, making sure to put plenty along the relatively slow point through here. I remember we had stops here before, so it would probably be good to put a couple back. And then that, as they say, is the way the cookie crumbles. So this is connected in down here. We'll have to be removing this lot, but that's absolutely fine. Nothing's been established there yet. We are going to have to put in our first line away from Winsford, and this is pretty monumental because Winsford's been a fairly large city throughout the game. It's just we've never really given it as much love as some of the others. So we're going to come down here. We're going to potentially go to number 2 if we have to. At Winsford, we're going to potentially go to number 4 if we have to. And then after that, we're going to go back past Dover, past Shildon, and then up to Winsford again. So this line is it's probably like a crossing line more than anything. I'm just going to call it the CrossBurgh Express. Because it goes across NeoBurgh. And it's not really finished yet. We're probably going to be continuing that through, maybe past Mablethorpe and Sutton, maybe past Tollaw and on to Knaresborough. You never know where it might go. These routes aren't necessarily set in stone just yet. I'm still considering them as we're going. But this will be a massive connection for Winsford, and we've got a second connection there which could potentially connect into some other cities along the way. We have plenty of options really to choose from, so it's just a case of where we go from here. So I'm going to leave this one here. We won't put any trains on this just yet. I want to put in the connections in Winsford next. But thank you for watching. Let me know what you think with your thumbs as for this episode. And until next time, have a good one. Thanks. Goodbye.